All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tampa International Airport. As Bo said, thank you for the introduction. I'm Ben Robbins. That's BenRobins. I'm the Vice President of Operations here at Tampa International Airport, TPA. We're here to talk about summer travel. Summer travel is that period from now until mid-August when the kids return to school. We're forecasting 3.4 million passengers this summer. That's roughly 71,000 passengers coming in and out of this airport each day. And for background, our spring break period is what we call our Super Bowl, our sprint period, where we have passengers where we peak in the beginning of March to the beginning of April. Summer is more like a marathon, where we're going to see elevated levels. In fact, it's a 4% increase over last summer. So what does that mean? Early arrival is key. We recommend 2 hours for your domestic flights and 3 hours for the international flights. There is a lot of construction going on at TPA, and we're really excited for it. We're preparing for our growth. The Red Express curbs, the shuttle cars on airsides A and C, after millions of miles and many years, are being replaced. So we're going to have single shuttle car operations there. Airsides A and E, brand new security checkpoints to enhance our security and our throughput. Those are under construction right now. So a few helpful tips. We are doing our best to minimize those impacts, but please don't show up 20 minutes early. You can expect longer than normal lines getting onto the shuttles, even here in the main terminal. Please, we're recommending book your parking well ahead in advance. You can do that online, and you can reserve your spot. If you are being dropped off and you only have a carry-on, we encourage you to use the Blue Express curbs. You can skip the ticketing level and go right to the gating level. Dropping off a car at the rental car center, we encourage you to use the remote bag check. As long as you're 90 minutes prior, you can drop off your bags, hop on the Sky Connect for the short 1.5 mile ride to the terminal, and it'll be a breeze. If you're hungry, we encourage you to use the Uber apps for pickup. And if for the coffee lovers, the Starbucks app is available for faster pickup. It is summer in Florida, and when there's summer in Florida, that means afternoon thunderstorms. So please check with your airlines, keep up to date. They'll have the latest delays and cancellations. And with that, Team TPA is ready. We're fully staffed and excited for a great, impactful summer. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Charlie Vasquez, Charlie. Last name Vasquez, Vazquez. I am the Vice President of Public Safety and Security and Chief of Police for the Tampa International Airport. I'd like to give you 3 tips to help you have a safe and uneventful journey through our airport. I'd like to start with before you leave the house and when you're en route, and then finally when you get to the airport. So before you leave the house, please check your bags. Check your bags for firearms, for ammunition, for magazines. So many people get arrested at the airport because they forgot to check their bags, and they get to TSA checkpoint, and TSA finds them, and then your vacation's over before it even started. I'd like to remind you, although it is a constitutional carry state in Florida, you cannot carry a firearm into a passenger terminal in the airport. It is a second-degree misdemeanor, punishable by up to 60 days in jail, up to a $500 fine, and up to 6 months probation. And also remember, while some jurisdictions do allow marijuana is still illegal in Florida. And if the TSA finds it, they'll call us, and then we'll have to do that as well. And again, your vacation will probably be over before it starts. But when you're en route to the airport, please mind our speed limits on the parkway. The speed limit starts at 45, and then it drops down to 35, and then 30. And there's a reason for that. There's one way into the airport, and there's one way out. And if you're doing 60, 65 miles per hour, as we sometimes see, and someone changes lane to get to a curbside and we have a crash, the whole parkway gets shut down, and it creates a big mess. So please do the speed limit on the parkway, 45 entering, 35. We vigorously enforce the speed limits with our radar traffic units. Another thing about the parkway, don't stop on the shoulders. We have signage all over, no stopping, no standing, no parking. Somebody parks, 2 or 3 people park behind them, and then somebody pulls out in traffic, and again, it causes an accident. We have the cell phone lot, and you can also use short-term parking for an hour for free. And finally, when you get to the airport, please limit your intake of alcohol. I know sometimes flights get delayed and you don't have something to do, but limit the intake of alcohol. If you get to the gate and the gate agent denies you boarding and you're not leaving the airside, they'll call us. And most times we resolve it peacefully. We'll get you rebooked on a later flight and get you out of here. But if you become disorderly or you act up, there's a chance again that you may not make that flight and you may not make a later flight. So closing, again, please check your bags for weapons, ammunition, firearms, knives, anything like that that may have been in it from a previous trip. Check for your speed limits on the parkway. Make sure you keep your speed limits 45 and 35. And finally, again, please limit your alcohol intake. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm a bit tall. Mark Howell with TSA, a regional spokesperson for TSA. Good morning, and thanks for joining us here today to talk a little bit about the busy Memorial Day weekend in summer. We're looking at about 40,000 passengers a day at the peak days of Thursday, Friday, and Monday. Over the weekend, it's going to be a bit lighter, but it is going to be exceptionally busy throughout the weekend. So, as Ben mentioned a little bit earlier, please get to the airport early, at least 2 hours prior to your scheduled departure time, to give yourself enough time to get through the process. When we say that, get to the airport 2 hours early, it means like get inside the terminal 2 hours early. If you're looking for parking or if you're taking back a rental car, add that on to that 2 hours to give yourself enough time. As you can imagine, when we get into a holiday weekend, everybody's traveling at the same time. Parking can become a premium. It may take you a little bit longer to find that parking spot, so don't let that cut into your time in the terminal. Please make sure you give yourself enough time. There's going to be periods during the mornings on Thursday and Friday where we're going to see exceptionally heavy volume. Our goal through the weekend and into summer is to keep our wait times 30 minutes or less for standard screening and 15 minutes or less for TSA pre-check. Here in Tampa, we do that very, very consistently. It's very rare that we go over that. But there are periods in the morning hours between 6 and 9 a.m. where we may have so much volume coming at one time that we will see some temporary wait times. So if you are traveling in the early morning hours, make sure that you're giving yourself adequate time to get through security and on to your aircraft. The other thing that passengers can do to help us out is check their bags before they come to the airport. As you see behind you, we have a variety of different things that people bring to security checkpoints that are prohibited. And when we have additional volume, we have additional prohibited items. And those prohibited items will slow screening down at the security checkpoint. A real kind of trickle in prohibited items can turn into a tidal wave when we're in that very busy period. So make sure you don't have any oversized liquids, knives, anything that could be used as a bludgeon or a tool that's more than 7 inches. If you guys want afterwards, I can kind of go through those rules with you with the demo in the back. But the other thing we're seeing, and I've got good news and bad news on it, firearms, as Chief Vasquez mentioned a second ago. The bad news is we are still seeing firearms come to the security checkpoint. The good news is that there are less of them. And the good part, the better part of that news is that year to date, we've had about 40 firearms come to the security checkpoint as of yesterday. That's compared to 51 for the same time period last year. So given that we've seen about 10% more volume this year than last year, to see the numbers go down is a positive sign. But we do want to recommend that passengers really pay attention to what they're bringing with them to the airport, because as he mentioned, it's a misdemeanor. You can be cited here, but you're also going to get a civil penalty from TSA, which can go upwards of $15,000. So a very costly mistake for bringing that firearm to the checkpoint. So to kind of summarize, just make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to get through the process. Check your bags before you come to the airport. And we're getting into Memorial Day this year, but Memorial Day of next year, if you are planning to travel or you're starting to plan for travel next year, make sure that if you are traveling after Memorial Day next year, that you have a Real ID compliant license. Starting May 8th of 2025, you're going to need to have a Real ID compliant license or another acceptable form of ID to be able to go through security checkpoints. So please pay attention to that. The way you can check is if you take your license out and look to see if it has a star on it. If you don't have the star on it, you need to get with the tax collector's office, make sure that you get your license updated before that. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. I'm also Bottom, the Assistant Airport Director for Customs and Border Protection in Tampa. We over here at the Tampa Airport receive all international arrivals and departure. Okay, when we're doing that, we are pretty much enforcing federal regulation, immigration, customs, and agriculture. We have instituted a number of technologies, okay, to try to make the arrival and the departure of that passenger as pleasant as possible, okay, but we do have a national security mission to comply with. This year, we're expecting the largest number of national arrivals ever, okay, the Tampa International Airport, but we feel that we're ready for it. And that's pretty much it. S-A-B-A-T, Sabat.
All right, at this time, we're going to invite everybody back up from the police department, from TSA, and Alberto, you can come back for CBP. We can field some questions. Just one highlight, Mark mentioned the number, 40,000 passengers. That's going through just the one way through the checkpoint. We actually have to also account for the passengers arriving. So, like for instance, today we're expecting between 75 to 80,000 passengers moving through the airport on a day like today. So, with that, we're open to your questions.
Let me add one more thing, though. But one thing I forgot to mention is if you are bringing a firearm for travel, that is authorized. It has to be packed in a TSA-approved case, and it has to be declared at the counter. You just can't pack it in your carry-on or pack it in your checked luggage. You have to declare it at the counter and check with your airline. Each airline has their own rules for how they'll allow it to be carried.
So, if you do have a question, just please address it to one of us, and then we'll get it to the appropriate people. Go ahead for the TSA. Sure.
So we are constantly hiring. Basically, we're and there's a couple things to kind of talk here. Planning for Memorial Day weekend in summer really starts when the last Memorial Day ends. So it's an ongoing planning process. As I mentioned earlier, we're seeing about 10% more passengers this year than we did last year, and as a result, we saw that coming. We started the hiring process to make sure that we had adequate staffing to go into this summer. So we have hired some new folks, and we are going to continue to hire new folks as we go through summer to be prepared for the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday travel periods. So one thing I forgot to mention a minute ago, and it's in terms of planning, we have a great partnership not only with the airport but with the airlines who share their projections with us. And that's kind of how we do our staffing models. So when we get into holiday weekends and busy travel periods like spring break, we are taking a look at those projections and historical numbers to make sure that we are going to staff the number of lanes that we're going to need to process that volume coming through. And that's how we know that between the 6 and 9 a.m. hours of the morning, we're going to see volume that is very heavy, and we may potentially see those wait times, even regardless of how many lanes that we open. It just kind of depends on everybody's arrival patterns. So to answer the question, yes, we are fully staffed and ready. You will see use of our canine resources as well during the holiday period to help us expedite some of those passengers through as well. And they'll use some overtime really to help get that process, or to get the folks through there as well.
Yeah, and from the airport side, we are expecting that 4% increase over the summer. The authority, we are fully staffed, ready to go, and we even worked with our partners, the tenants and the concessionaires, for hiring fairs in January. So we were preparing for the spring break period and the summer period a long time ago. So yeah, we're ready to go.
Thank you all so much for coming out. If anybody wants a one-on-one or anything like that, we can make that available. TSA will be set up back over here at their table to do a demo on some of the items that people are bringing through the airport. So if you have any other questions or anything, we also have some beverages if anyone needs a drink in the cooler. Thanks.